You are now watching Footy Prime, the podcast, hosted by Danny DICHIO, Craig Forrest, and James Sharman.
Hello there, football fans, and welcome. It is Monday, October the 28th. It is Footy Prime. Sharman, DICHIO, and Forrest. How was the weekend, fellas? Good?
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah?
Fantastic.
Is that sarcastic?
Leicester had... No. Are you kidding?
You being real?
Leicester had a decent
Celebrating.
result.
Not a bad result. I'm going to say. So I'm watching... Actually, I wasn't watching the game. It's funny, because we're not on TV on Saturdays now, you know, I kind of look at the schedule, Leicester within the... I had no idea Leicester was playing Southampton on Friday. And I started getting these weird texts and tweets, I bet you did, about Forrest is no longer famous or infamous. 9-0. Finally, it's not being beaten, but it's equal your mark.
It was away from home. I mean, it's way worse than mine.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, it's Leicester too. It wasn't United in their glory days either.
Precisely. You know, it's amazing. I didn't watch it either, but I went back and watched it, obviously. And you listen to the commentators at 3-4-0, and you could just get the sense, even when the game was going to be a big scoreline.
Yeah.
Southampton were going to cut open, like so easily.
Yeah.
You could tell that it was going to be 6 or 7 at
But
least.
they were down a man too, right? You weren't down a man.
No.
So
we were-
makes
we were
your
11
result
v-
worse.
Well, we're not going to talk about that. We were 11v11. Well,
Kind of.
Pushing on.
We were also up against 12 because Graham Poll was definitely...
the Man United
Yeah, he had
jersey
a Man
under
United,
his referee's
Yeah, he did. He was
shirt.
running down the sideline with
Celebrating.
his shirt off.
I mean, Deej, I feel a little bit disappointed for Craig, don't you? Like he held that he was the man. He was the guy getting the phone
He's still the
calls.
man.
He's still the man?
Yeah. Come on.
Hey, it hasn't been broken yet.
It was amazing that Kasper Schmeichel and Peter Schmeichel were in goal at the other end of the field for both games. It's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
It is. Although it's like, so? Yeah, actually, Casper had more to do than Peter, for sure, on that day. I don't think Peter had a shot.
Yeah, well, you tweeted out, yeah,
So happy for them.
yeah, sitting on a deck chair or something,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Pina colada in the hand.
Yeah.
They're saying that
me and Angus Gunn are the only ones that have
Angus
decided
Gunn.
to go with the Schmeichel at the other end.
Which one of you played with his dad? Wasn't it one of you?
I did. Well,
You
with
did.
his dad, he was with Norwich City.
Okay,
Yeah.
Norwich, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And
That's
he played for
amazing.
Scotland. He was a good goalkeeper.
Very good.
Brian, yeah.
Angus Gunn is highly rated as well. He was.
He is. Yeah, well, hey,
He's on loan, is he? Or because he was at Man City for a long
he's
time,
been
was it?
bouncing around all over the place. But to be fair,
Norwich for a little bit.
yeah, you know, he's a strong character. He's only 23, which is
He better be a strong character.
right. But he's already gone through some of his own issues, I'm sure, to battle to get where he is, and he's proven to be good enough to play in the Premier League. And it's not, that the incredible thing is watching it, it's not Angus Gunn's fault.
To be fair to the sending off, I looked at it a couple of times. I thought the referee could have helped him a little bit, but when I looked at it in slow-mo, it came from the side and the studs were up on the calf. The ref didn't see it at first. He went back to it. I think it was a VAR decision to send him off. But the Southampton players just down tools. Like, it was embarrassing at times. As you said, it wasn't like Leicester were playing exhilarating football. They were cutting them open because Southampton were just so disorganised. And
Pylons.
Hassan Hutel come out afterwards and took the blame entirely. But I think that's just covering a lot of what's going on at Southampton at the moment, because the players, we've all played with 10 men before, and you're a lot more organised, a lot more compact and harder to break down. But they were so loose and open, and I actually felt sorry for the keeper in the end, because he was just getting battered, getting pelted.
Maybe the the first one he palmed wide. I think it was a decent save. Maybe he didn't push it wide enough, but I mean, really clutching at straws as far as where to pick some fault for Angus Gunn. He was just really exposed.
I think a lot of people had high hopes for Southampton this year as well. And this result aside, it's been a poor start to the campaign. Apparently, Hassan looked safe for now. I'm not sure it's all his fault. I can't blame the guy, but he looked pretty good when he came in last year, and they turned the team around,
Saved them,
obviously. Yeah, saved them. But, that's a tough one. And as you know, Craig, the next game is so important.
Yeah.
And it could snowball out of control. I think in the first episode of this podcast, we did that game you experienced in depth. And I think I read out all the results that came after that, and they weren't pretty.
No.
So it
They
could be
weren't.
an interesting month for Southampton.
Well, that's it. Yeah, they got to regroup. I mean, we were near the end of the season when we got hammered 9-0, and we were already lambs to the slaughter. So that was a different situation than Southampton's. Remember a few weeks ago we were talking about Watford and they got hammered 8-0. Right. Well, now that's kind of forgotten. It's gone, away.
I think Southampton have got 2 tough games coming up as well. I think they play Man City.
Do they? If only there was some kind of electronic database where we could find out such things. You guys keep talking. I have a look at this, okay? We're so prepared, aren't we? See, I've got notes here, but not the right notes. But my incorrect notes are better than your no notes.
Okay.
Keep talking.
Yeah.
I'll look it up here.
Southampton. Yeah, that one stings.
You know who's lurking in the background? Maybe a return? Mark Hughes. We haven't heard of him in a while.
Where is Mark Hughes now?
Hey, they should get Ralph Kruger to coach.
He's busy right now with the best team in the NHL. And the Sabres tops right now.
What an,
they were
what an
tops.
impressive guy, by the way.
Oh, by the way, so Man City plays Southampton in the League Cup tomorrow.
And
League
then
Cup.
and then they play him in the league, don't they?
I think they do.
Well,
Let
lucky
me have a
the
look
League
here.
Cup, they'll have their
Oh, Jesus.
schoolboys.
You're right. So tomorrow, Tuesday, they play City in the League Cup. This weekend, Saturday, 11 a.m. Eastern, Southampton at Man City. And then they're at Everton. That's a gimme, 3 points there.
Tell me this then, Craig.
Then it's Arsenal.
Would you be upset for being dropped for the next game?
Yes.
After just conceding 9,
Yes.
and then you have Man City on double in the Cup, and then, they'll probably play their under-23 team, and then Saturday at the Etihad.
Yes, I would be upset.
You'd be upset.
Yeah.
Even though you could maybe concede another 36 goals
Well,
in 2 games.
the fact that he might book in a hamstring injury, that's a different situation.
Did you ever fake injuries?
No,
No.
Okay.
No.
Cameras are on.
no.
Mics are on. We'll discuss that maybe after the fact. I would. I'd fake it all the time.
On the field, maybe, but
Yeah? You haven't? No, fair
never.
enough.
you
Did you ever
wanted
know
to play.
teammates that did fake injuries?
Uh,
Without naming names,
well,
unless you want to.
I don't know if they were fake injuries, but maybe some illnesses crept up now and again.
usually
when
away from home, funny enough.
At crap venues.
Well, yeah, or
Dark
not
Tuesday
even,
night
maybe not even
at
crap
Stoke.
venues. It could
Or
be
going to Norwich or Ipswich away midweek was a terrible journey, especially if you were at Sunderland.
Because no matter where you are, though, it's not easy to
It's a
get to,
nightmare,
right?
yeah.
No, Ipswich. We knew that too at Ipswich. That it was a tough place to get to. And
Yeah.
people didn't like coming there.
Different world over there compared to here. I mean, here you're traveling bigger distances, but you're flying. Generally speaking, you're flying in pretty decent surroundings. Whereas there, you're taking buses and trains, even the top teams.
Yep.
Well, yeah, and we had few occasions we would take a flight up north to Newcastle or Manchester, but by the time you get to the airport and go through your whole day, and the bus driver or the coach driver would drop you off, he would then drive that coach
Yep.
and meet you at the airport and usually beat you there. So it wasn't
Yeah.
far enough. Like, so it just really didn't make any
And
sense.
going through all customs at the airport and stuff like that as well.
Yeah. What, in England? You have to go through a passport to get into
No,
Suffolk,
but
don't
just but just getting on through the airport, stuff like that. It's not like
Yeah.
the NBA guys travel here, where they're on a bus straight onto the plane.
You remember all the 1834s heading off to Ibiza and places and
Benidorm.
Some of the stories about the card games in the back of the bus are legendary as well. The amount of money that was gambled and betting is that true? Did you experience that, or was it? Yeah.
Yeah, some guys. There's always a card table and always a card game going on the coach. Somebody playing cards. And if you want to get involved, go ahead.
Were you guys involved, or did you stay clear?
I played a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With Canadian dollars.
Canadian dollars.
Trumps,
yeah.
top trumps.
Yeah.
Amazing. I love top trumps.
It was
best
interesting
game ever.
towards the end of like my career in England. You always had the card table, but then the younger players started, because they're on big money obviously, then they started bringing on the TV monitors and the PlayStations. So there would be a table of older vets playing cards, and then there would be the younger group playing a PlayStation set up with a monitor.
Right.
Like, what the fuck's going on now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Certain movies always played. Certain documentaries.
I don't even know if movies are on. No,
Panorama.
guys
Wasn't
didn't
that
even
that
watch.
Panorama show you used to watch a lot?
No.
What's the one? We discussed that. What was it? It's a documentary in the BBC in the 90s about the poor fella.
Oh, John's Not Mad?
John's Not Mad. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
We had a couple of them on the team.
Am I going down a road that I shouldn't have gone down here? Okay.
Somebody asked me an interesting question the other day. As a Canadian, tea at halftime or before the game is really common in over there. And yeah, like I had a cup of tea at halftime.
Lots of sugar.
Every single game, lots of sugar, in a little plastic cup.
But that was a
It
number.
also tasted a little like plastic.
Yeah.
That was a number one rule, though, when you went to an away ground, that you did not drink the tea left or provided to you in the room. Because
well, some of them had,
the apprentices or whoever were looking after the changing rooms that day, we knew it as well because we were apprentices.
Because you'd be doing it too.
Yeah, you do not drink the tea in the away team
There's
dressing
things
room.
in that tea that shouldn't be in that tea.
Exactly. A lot of things.
Really?
Especially if it was a derby game or...
Such-
Because the apprentices look after that stuff. Like you'd had little sandwiches, cut sandwiches nicely in your room and a big pot of tea. But I loved a cup of tea. I still do. But I would never drink it in a away team dressing room.
They would have usually a massive big pot of tea with about 30 tea bags they would just throw in there. I remember DiChiO coming in and he was all pissed off about something which wasn't unusual. Paolo, so he come in, the first thing he did, Harry Redknapp had a little dig at him and he wasn't happy, so he picked up that tea urn and threw it, and it was just, there was tea everywhere. It's like he didn't burn half the team.
Really?
Yeah, he wasn't happy about being dug out by Harry on that particular occasion.
Well, I mean, I've heard about lots of tea bagging in locker rooms, but that takes it to a brand new level entirely, doesn't it?
Yes.
Jeez.
Yeah, but great cup of tea at halftime. Yeah.
The tea lady was a big part of the club, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like respected,
Yeah,
well
but
known.
This tea urn was
conscious of the room.
so big and heavy that she couldn't carry that in.
No.
She might have made the tea, but the apprentices had to bring in the tea.
Who was your favourite tea lady?
Oh, we had a lovely one at Sunderland, Preston. Like, been there for years and years. Margaret, her name was up in Sunderland. She was a gem. She looked after all the wives and the kids as well. And it was just, as we've spoken about before, a real nice feeling environment within that club. It was a community club.
At Sunderland, this is.
At Sunderland, yeah. And the tea ladies, the equipment guys are there for a long, long time as well. So they're part of the culture within the club. And
Yeah, I mean, they did multiple jobs. Like our kit guy, Trevor Curtin, he drove the coach. He was the kit man. He was
At Ipswich.
he was managing the stands and cleaning, making sure the stands were all clean. He did a number of different jobs, not just one. And that's what you get at smaller clubs. In the smaller clubs, you get these individuals that are there for decades and decades.
And
The
each
kit
year
man
you
at
get-
West Ham, Eddie Gillens, I remember him too. Great guy that was there for ever and ever. And those are you really sort of, those are the guys you remember as much as anyone.
They're almost the fabric of the club, those kind of people,
they
right,
are.
aren't they?
They are. Yeah.
And those people you tip well at Christmas and stuff. I'm assuming that's what
What?
they got. Well, Danny, those are the guys you tip well at Christmas. And
you should bring them a little bottle of whiskey or something.
that was it.
Yeah, you just give them a gift instead. It wasn't.
They don't want a gift. They want money.
No, these guys did. Yeah,
It's like, oh,
All
thanks.
these
John,
ladies
John
did.
Juan Curry wasn't happy with Eddie one day because Eddie, according to John,
According to John,
would keep forgetting to lay out his socks or something. There's always something missing. So he came in late one day, John, and his kit wasn't ready or whatever. So John Juan Curry just put on his boots. And it was pouring. It was about 4 degrees that damp English day. And we're warming up. And here comes John running across the field, butt naked.
slide tackle.
Just his football boots on. Does the whole warm up naked. And you've got the fans standing over there, but there's nobody with cell phones and everything back then. And then it was
Doesn't sound like John.
Eventually, you figure, well, he's got to be freezing. So he decides, I'm going to go back in now and get changed. Does a slide right in front of the fans in a wet puddle.
I saw
Just
John
amazing.
Montgomery naked once in Emporium nightclub. He slid down the stairs.
He loved getting naked.
Yeah, he jumped in the fountain and
Yeah,
everything. I was like,
yeah.
who is this lunatic? And it's like, I said, just Johnny. He's had a couple
Okay, we're going to
too
get
many.
John Moncur on this show at some point, right?
Oh, yeah, he's just absolutely legendary.
Yeah, that sounds amazing.
Crazy.
In
In a good way.
As usual, the lineup's been thrown out the window already here, but that's a good thing. It means it's a good show. But I want to get to. I was on the so we're also now on DeanBlundell.com. We're really happy about this partnership with Dean's new environment for content. It's fantastic. We'll be writing and posting our podcast there as well. I was on his podcast last week, and he brought up the football card picture of Danny, the Wolverine picture, which we posted a few times on Twitter. We'll do it again today if you missed it. And he wants to know from you, Deech. He hasn't met you yet, but he wants to know, like, he said, to me, that is a guy that has just come out of a meth lab. And he asked me to ask you, have you ever done meth? And I said, I'm pretty sure you haven't. pretty sure. But that day, you know the picture.
Yes.
What had happened the night before?
No disrespect to meth, but no, I haven't done meth.
You look rough,
I
though.
have no idea where I was the night before, but
I think
usually
you're trying to hang on to your hair. Like
Yeah,
you were kind of
probably.
like it was moving down here.
it's
and
the
you
old
had
Bobby Charlton. I didn't
sideburns.
know where I was going. I was trying to pull it over from back to front, sideways.
But it's the facial hair almost. It's like starting here, stopping there.
No, they were
But you look
beautiful
good
lamb
bald.
chops.
You look
Nice
good
lamb
bald.
chops. Yeah.
It suits you.
Well, I look fucking a lot better than I did back then with hair, didn't I?
You do. You're like a fine wine.
But also, when we go to talk about having your team photo or player photos done, the amount of kind of preparation that I see from players nowadays, where they're at the groomers or the hairdressers the day before, they're up
Pedicure,
early to
manicure.
get their like faces done, beards trimmed nicely. I'm going, fuck, we like back
So
in the
you're
day,
trying to
we had
say-
no idea when the photo
So you're
people were coming
basically
in.
just saying that you just put no effort in.
I'm basically saying I was probably out till 4 a.m. the night before that
Rolled out of bed
picture
and-
was taken, or I was probably DJing somewhere and
Really?
was still probably very happy and jovial having that photo taken.
Did the posers, though, in your era, did posers get it from the team, banter-wise? I mean, there must have been some posers.
Yes.
I'm sure there were, right?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you weren't
Yeah.
playing that many years ago.
The best was and you probably had some locker rooms, changing rooms back in the day where we had a fantastic changing room at Millwall, and we had a couple of the crazy gang. Dennis Wise was player coach back then, but we had some real characters in the group as well. And when a new player came in and he was having himself, we'll say, in a nice way, where all the gear was on, looking very plush, and some rascal sweaters were being worn, or jeans or shoes, we would hang them up or we would cut them up. That was one way of doing it. And there was one time we had the goalkeeper, Marshall. Was it Marshall?
Ian?
Andy Marshall
Andy,
came in
yeah.
from Ipswich, actually, and he came in on loan. And he bought in some terrible cloth. I think it was like a Gucci kind of sweater, tracksuit top, some rascal stone-washed jeans.
Was Rascal a brand?
Huh?
Was Rascal a brand?
Rascal. No,
Yeah.
just Rascal as in like terrible.
Oh, terrible. Okay.
Yeah.
And
I've got to go work on my London slang here.
and the boys,
Well, it's-
the boys actually took the gear and they took them outside, took a mannequin outside as well, and put the clothes on the mannequin and put tape around it, so that when we're running out on the field, he's gone out to the field to start to warm up with the goalkeeping coach, and he's seen his gear out there, and he absolutely lost it. Lost it. That's an 800-pound outfit there. The boys say he's fucking terrible, terrible. And every day would come in, something was done to it. So you had to react to it in a certain way, because if you fell into the trap of reacting in a bad way, that was you done for the time you were there. So the locker rooms were where the kind of team spirit, the character was built, but also where those type of guys were kind of really
Then you had the other
pushed.
ones where everybody had a clothing guy. It was like you travel
Or
somewhere,
a shop, a store.
shop or store, or a guy that would show up on away trips and bring a whole bunch of gear. And I was pretty young at the time, and these players would talk me into buying all this expensive stuff. It looked like shit. And I'm 6'5". It wouldn't fit me, but they're all like, it looks brilliant. Big man, it looks brilliant. And then I'd buy it, and then they'd cane me for it.
It looked like Rodney and Only Fools and Horses.
I'm like, what do you mean? Is that long enough?
You clunker.
Oh, Rodders, here he comes. Look.
But that's what you wore. But cars were always a thing, right? You had to have a decent car in most cases, right?
That's
Or did
another
that-
story. I didn't have a nice car. I didn't care. I had a little flat that plummeted in price because the market had dropped. So it lost 80% of value on it. I had this beige Golf 1.1 liter.
I drive a Golf. What are you saying about Golfs?
Well, yeah, but you're not a football star.
Far from it.
And it was beige. And it was beige.
It's beige, yeah, exactly.
You were Rodders.
It's a good thing I didn't.
Was your flat in Peckham as well?
Nearly. Yeah, I tell you what, it wasn't as nice as Peckham.
Was it a three-wheeled Golf by chance?
Just
Like the
about.
Reliant Robin?
And I came out one day and some of the little bastards ran over it. Like ran over it. Like ran over it, yeah. So they had a bum mark on the top of the car, feet marks all over it, scratches.
That's normal in that part of London.
Like seriously.
But you never bought into the whole must get myself a slick ride.
Not really.
No.
Not really.
The amount of money wasted on cars when you were younger and
What was your most
career.
expensive car you bought in England when you were
I
playing there?
never went for like a stupid car, but I had like a Range Rover back in the day when I didn't really need it. I didn't have kids at that time. I'm like, why am I driving a big
a Range Rover, that's
SUV
why.
like this? Just your normal kind of sports car, but some guys like coming in with Bentleys, Rolls Royce, and you think
Kids too nowadays, right? You know, they're almost academy graduates within the last year or so, and they're driving Bentleys. Yes, wow. And you wonder why.
That's why I like Manchester United and what Alex Ferguson done back in the day. I think they had a sponsorship with Audi and
Club
every
cars,
player they had club cars, and certain players were put in their place because certain players that they were trying to play with or trying to progress to, it was a matter of respect in the car park to show, look, you've got a nice car already. You don't need to be lavish. But I think that's gone out the window now. You see Pogba and people driving Lukaku, I think, back there, had a blacked out Bentley, which at the end of the day, that's their own decision to make. But I think it's a matter of respect as well within the club or with players you're playing, and also the supporters that are coming to watch you. And
Dan, can we get a pod car? Yeah?
I
pod
think
car.
we're gonna make sure that Danny has some conversations with some Audi
Yeah.
folk.
Yeah. I wouldn't mind an Audi.
Driving around doing podcasts.
That's right.
yeah,
Yeah. Free
pretty
prime
cool.
on the side on the door. I'll do anything for a car. There's
you'll do
nothing
anything for anything.
I
Charles.
will.
We've
There's
learned that.
nothing I won't do.
Meat pies.
Meat pies, yeah. Shaman's proper. Well,
were
they'll
ta-
sponsor pretty soon.
We were talking about photos there, right? About photos, and I remember doing the team photo because you do your individual photos, then you do your team photos. Like you say, now you didn't really know when it was.
No.
Just you come in one day and
like
they're like,
surprise.
"Hey, yeah, the photographer's here today," and everybody's just kind of hanging around. Trevor Putney, old Ipswich player. You remember Trevor Putney, right? Cockney guy, funny as heck. Bobby Ferguson, the Geordie manager, just despised him because he was always laughing in the morning. He hated people that laughed in the morning.
Did he?
Oh yeah, I hate people that laugh in the morning. So
Grumpy git.
grumpy, yeah. And so they do the team photo. Nobody says anything. A couple weeks later, I don't know how many, thousands of big posters of the team comes out, and there's Trevor Putney in the front row with his tonsure out, hanging out of his shorts. So
We've got to get that team photo because I think I saw that back in the day as
so they
well.
had to burn. They had to get rid of all of them, and then Fergie's like, "Putney, come into my office. You gotta pay for all these photos." How are we gonna
That's
do it again?
amazing.
Yeah.
But it brings, I guess it brings teams together, a good laugh, right? The banter, right? You look at some teams right now and they're missing something. And, we're almost out of time here. We have to mention Granit Xhaka. I know you want to get to it, Deitch. This weekend, Arsenal obviously in a bit of disarray at the moment. They were screwed over, quite frankly, late in the game with a VAR.
VAR again.
Yeah, once again, which I'm not going to mention. I'm sick of it. I'm not going to mention it anymore. That was a terrible, terrible use of VAR. It was used incorrectly. But off comes Granit Xhaka, the captain of the club. He's been given it by the fans. And then he cups his ear, tells them to F off very quietly. He wasn't like screaming at them. And he's been hammered for doing that ever since. What's your thoughts on that, given the abuse he was taking?
Well, he's frustrated, obviously, and his reaction was incorrect. I'll go as far as that. I think one of the biggest problems that I had with it, and I can, again, understand his frustration, is the fact that they're 2-2. They were 2-0 up. He's getting subbed off, and he's walking off. I think that's where the fans were like, get off the pitch. Like, if the coach has made a decision, get off the field. So there's a lot of frustration around that club right now. It's boarding as a boarding point, and I think that a lot of that comes into play. But what he did in his reaction was completely wrong. But at some point, part of it, I do understand his frustration, but he'll regret it, I think, long run.
Listen, the Arsenal's fans' reaction was very poor towards him. Okay? His reaction to them was instinctive, I think. It was like, hold on, I am the captain of this club, and I should be
When he's probably
shown
feeling
a little
like
bit
I'm
more
working
respect.
hard, at
Yeah.
least, and at least shown some respect.
But this kind of curtails back to him being named as the captain by the players. I don't think we've spoken about this before, everyone's first choice to be a captain, especially the Arsenal fans. I think it's more than 50-50 in favour of him being even a starting player within the group. Like, he's not a well-liked player at Arsenal Football Club. This is only going to exaggerate it even more in the press. The media are going to go after him now. There's certain players saying that he's got to be dropped from his captaincy. Is that right or not? I agree in some sense that a captain shouldn't act like that. But let's not go away from the fact that there's a reason the Arsenal fans were booing him. And it's not entirely because of his performance, but they were tying 2-2 at the time with Crystal Palace in a game that they should be winning at home. And he's walking off the field slowly.
Yeah.
That was the reaction from the Arsenal fans. Mm-hmm. Not only is he performing below average, but he's walking off in a game where, okay, we want to try and increase the tempo a little bit. We want to bring a player on to try and make an impact, to try and change the game a little bit. And he's walking off and he's kind of goading the fans a little bit as well, which I didn't particularly like.
Yeah. No, I didn't either. And I think he'll regret it. And I had the same situation years and years ago at Ipswich where our team were struggling. We weren't in the Premier League at the time, I don't believe. But we were getting it from our fans. And I was fed up with our own fans, so I ended up giving them the wanker sign behind my back to my own fans, which I also regretted afterwards.
Straight
as
away?
Well, not really straight away. I was just like, come on, like
you were that pissed off.
I was just pissed off that I think they were unfair on our players at the time, which they absolutely were. And like I said, I regretted it. So it's amazing they can say whatever they like to anybody on the field, any types of bad language and everything. And as soon as I gave him the wanker sign, it was like, oh my God, I was so offended.
Really?
Yeah. Well,
really? They didn't like it at all. Were you spoken to by your club for doing that? Were you reported?
Well, there was reporting about it that something should be done about it. And to be honest, I agreed with it. It was a mistake by me, and Richard Wright was a young goalkeeper who moved on to Arsenal soon after that, and then to Everton, and now he's goalkeeper coach in Man City. Great kid, great young goalkeeper. His dad passed away not long before this incident happened as well. He was a great gentleman as well and did a great job with Richard. And I know Richard was devastated, but he gave his shirt for auction up to cancer research, and I thought that was brilliant by him to do that. But it was his debut shirt, so I took the opportunity. I always thought that Richard should have that, and his dad would want him to have that debut shirt because it was a dream for Richard to play in the top flight. So I ended up buying that jersey for him. So it was kind of a
self-imposed fine.
Yeah, it was a self-imposed fine, basically, and I just, instead of giving it to something useless, I thought I would give it to something.
That is a great way to twist the message. Well done, Craig.
Yeah,
you're owning it, but at the same time, now you criticise me, arseholes.
Exactly.
You know?
Yes. Exactly.
Well done.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what year was that? Do you know approximately? Was that mid-90s? Later than that?
Yeah, mid-90s.
Because it must have been before I was on TV.
Probably 96, something like that.
Yeah, I would have hammered you for doing that on TV.
Oh yeah.
I would have smashed you. Letting down Canada, not just team, but Canada, for giving the wanker sign to your fans.
Yeah,
the wanker sign's a great sign, in fairness, and it's underused. It really is. I think over here, certainly in North America.
Yeah.
All right, listen, guys. End of part one. Part two will focus on Canadian soccer, in particular the Canadian Premier League. What a week it's been actually for Canadian soccer. In all, first of all, Canada gets officially into the top 6 in CONCACAF for the time being. Alphonso Davies starts at Bayern Munich this past weekend as well. The U17s kicked off, lost to Brazil, but still kicked off this weekend. And Forge play Cavalry in the Canadian Premier League final leg 1. We'll talk about that on the other side. Well, as promised, we're going to get to some Canadian Premier League talk now. Quite the weekend, a momentous weekend as the first leg of the two-legged final went. And tell you what, it was pretty good. A lot of drama, a lot of theatre as well. The Forge beat Cavalry 1-0. 2 red cards, one to Tristan Borges for I guess, violent conduct on a kick-out on Jonathan Wheeldon. Now, that's being appealed by Forge. And there's one on Joel Waterman for a handball, which led to the penalty and the 1-0 win. Now, we're now joined by Cavalry head coach, enjoying what's been just a brilliant debut season, Tommy Wheeldon Jnr. Tommy, welcome to the show, mate.
Oh, thanks for having us on, boys.
So first things first, about the red card. We hear that Forge is appealing their red card. Are you guys thinking about appealing the Waterman red? Because we're still a little bit confused about what happened there.
Jeez, yeah. seems the case, doesn't it? I mean, if we're appealing that, do we appeal the decision on their goal that the ball seemed over the line? I mean, where does the line stop? The referee's got a job to do. I mean, we'd love to have Joel Waterman available for the second leg, so perhaps we need to do that as well.
But as it stands right now, you haven't appealed just yet?
Yeah, we've asked the question because we didn't feel it was deliberate handball. It was ball to hand in his motion, but again, the rules are there is for the referee to interpret them, and we've got to bow down to the governing bodies on this one.
Tommy, I don't know if you can hear me. It's Danny here. I just want to try to get to the bottom of this red card, because before our season started with our academy team, the U19s, we had the referees come in and they explained that if the ball hits any part of the arm in the penalty area, then it's a handball. But there is one constraint where if a player is trying to stop a cross and he's protecting his fall, which it looked like your defender was doing on Saturday, and it hits his arm, then it's not a handball. So I saw that, I think it was Waterman was gesturing that he was trying to protect his fall. His motion was trying to protect his fall, and the ball hit his hand. So is that kind of what you're going to try and appeal? Because that's what it looked like to me.
Oh, you played the game a long time, and unfortunately you were at the other end trying to score the goals. The defenders, they're sliding in to make that ball be as big as possible. When you slide, where the arms go, if you put your arms at your side, you're lunging in two-footed, and that's illegal in the game. So his arm's out to protect his fall, and that's just the natural way of the body position. So that's where we're confused, and the sad state of affairs is we're talking about that and the drama around it, because it took away from what could have been a better football match. You know, it changed the outcome of the game, and I said it afterwards. We were just, I guess, happy to get out of there when it could have got a big drubbing when you're down a man for so long.
Yeah, Tommy, I mean, the game itself was certainly exciting for many different ways, and a lot of talking points in the match, too. I know Forge hit the crossbar, I believe, 3 times.
3 times, yeah.
So we're looking at Forge and, looking at the game itself from your standpoint, it could have been out of reach, potentially. Forge could have put the pressure on, and if they had scored 3 or 4, it could have been penalty save by your goalkeeper. It came up big. Yeah. So do you feel a little bit somewhat fortunate to get out of there with only 1-0?
Yeah, that's a positive, and I've said it time and again. Our group is built tough, right? We have a great resilience about us no matter what, and we've gone to Montreal Impact, and Nick Ledger got sent off, and still managed to hold on to a 2-1 tie against them, and they're packing some punches. We've gone to York 9 and should have won 1-0 had the injury time not gone over with 9 men. So we know what it feels like to have things go against us. Mm-hmm. It wasn't our best performance by any means, but it was a patient one. We were aiming to be patient because we knew Forge at home are very good. They play on a big pitch and they give you everything they've got, but they die. And we were just, okay, no problem, we'll wait, we'll take the wind in the second half, and then suddenly the tide's turned with the call and your game plan goes out the window. We just talked about survive, because we know once we get to Spruce Meadows, we score a lot of goals there. The crowd is intimidating. It's a smaller venue, which adds to it a little bit more passion, atmosphere, and we play some of our best football at home like most teams do. So going in at 1-0 isn't the worst. By far means not the best, but given the circumstance, I think we'd take that and move on.
And Tommy, as a neutral and someone that's watched the game in this country for a long time here, I know the fans, the players, the coaches may not appreciate what happened on the weekend, but the fact is they're talking points. And a lot of people are talking about these incidents, wrong or right, and that can't actually be bad for the league, can it?
No, you know what? I think it was even trending all over social media, wasn't it? So once you get to that point, you lads have been doing this in this country for a long time, supporting the game. Now we have a league of our own that's actually being talked about, and people saying, was it red, wasn't it red? Was it penalty, not a penalty? Should they have done this? Should they have done that? And now these talking points just stir interest on Monday morning when everyone's back in their offices and they're still talking about it. Mm-hmm. And I tell you what, it sells tickets for Saturday, because I know our fans, our club feels aggrieved about the circumstances, but there's nothing we can do about it other than we've got another bite at the apple, and we're looking forward to that Saturday.
Yeah, talking a little bit about your crowd, Tommy, and the support you get there has been terrific. And really read across the CPL, it has not been bad at all in the first year.
No.
It's been pretty impressive. And I think the actual standard of play has surprised me a little bit, to be honest with you. It's been much better. It just shows you that giving an opportunity and a place to play, that these players, and as well as coaches like yourself to get an opportunity, referees to get opportunities, and all the Canadians involved. It's been really terrific. Now, moving down and moving across to sort of down the road to next year, what's the deal with expansion? What's the talk there? What's the talk about exposure for the league? One Soccer has got the rights to it, and it's on a platform, which is great, but it's behind a paywall, trying to get as much exposure for your league. And what is the plan for that moving forward next year to try to get as many eyeballs and exposure to this league as the media landscape changes?
Yeah, I think the commissioner answered a couple of questions recently about the expansion. I believe he's going to make an announcement in the next 30 days. I know, from what he's talking about, there's 3 at the table. Whether that's, 1 in 2020 or 3 in 2021, I'm not too sure on that. But I know that we're far along the line with expansion. But I think anything, when you're growing, you just got to be patient with it. Make sure we've got, all 7 of us, doing our job and our bits in our communities, and then grow from there. So when the 8th and 9th are ready, they're in markets that can add to what we've already discovered from coast to coast this year. In terms of media exposure, I think, I came here in 2002 to play for the old Calgary Storm in the old A-League, and that was, when the Whitecaps, the Sounders, the Timbers, Montreal Impact, all in it, there was no coverage. You're lucky to get a column in a newspaper about professional football in this country. So now we're having, behind a paywall, but what's great about Media Pro is now they've invested in the Canadian game. And what they've done now is, CBC have come in and taken some of the games. And I believe even the Canada Soccer against US, there was a bit of an outcry why it was on mainstream. But believe me, that was offered. It was just the mainstream now needs to say, actually, you know what, we too should get this back on the mainstream as well. And that's how we grow the game, is more eyeballs on it and more investment in it.
Tommy, I just want to speak about the new rules hopefully coming in next year, where they're saying that there's going to be even more Canadian players within the squads, and that the foreign spots might be down to, I think, is it 2 next year, possibly within the squad, which could hurt a couple of teams. But working with younger Canadian players at Toronto FC Academy and seeing the pipeline of younger players with huge potential coming through, and I've loved seeing a lot of players that I've worked with or I've seen play within League One in Ontario, or just in general seen come through different avenues here in Ontario. Do you think we're going to hopefully see even more teams come in and put pressure on the league and saying, look, we need even more younger players playing week in, week out, not just being in the squad, but starting for their teams?
Absolutely, and I think, as you know, it's balance, isn't it? We were fortunate. A lot of our old heads became Nick Ledgewood, Mason Trafford, Jonathan Wheeldon, and Dominic Malonga was our foreign import, and I think they helped a lot of the lads that were new to professional football, like Joel Waterman, like Malik Hamilton, coming in and getting his first serious minutes. There's a lot of them. So I think for us is. I've heard, so I put my general manager hat on, I've had so many iterations of this new ruling coming in, and none of it has been made public. So I'm not sure what that means. All I can say is, as somebody who believes in Canadian football, I'm an adopted Canadian myself, is you only have to look at what Forge and ourselves have done. Some of these names wouldn't become local heroes. Your Nico Pasquotti's, Dominic Satore's, Marco Carducci's, had we not given them the chance. And I'm sure the same rings true for the guys they brought out of Sigma. They're just a fraction of the players that could possibly play in this league. I think we've just got to have that fine balance, because as we are a rookie league, I don't think we can go out there and just put under 23 sides in there. I think what we've got to do is have that fine balance, because what I can do as a coach on the training ground and in the locker room, the players can do day to day, whether it's around the meal tables, sitting next to each other on the plane, sharing an experience in a game. I think that's the fine balance that we've got to get as we grow the game. I
do think too, though, it's nice to have the odd foreigner in the league, like you have Escalante there, who is a clever Honduran player that comes from a different footballing culture, and it's a culture that we're not really familiar with, but very important, and I'm sure your players learn a lot from the way he plays the game.
So let me, and I'm glad you made that, because I was fortunate to work with Sean Fleming with the U17 World Cup team, and that's a 1998 group, Tristan Borges and all that. I remember playing against Costa Rica that played a 3-5-2. We played Panama that played in inverted wingers 4-2-3-1. We played Mexico 4-4-2 with out-and-out wingers. And then I think we played Haiti in a 4-3-3 with just who played direct. And all of these groups were different than saying, right, you've got to play this structure. It's how you play against this structure that we've got to learn. And we only learn it by being in these CONCACAF tournaments, because I can't remember the last time, if ever, Canada's won down in Central America. So if you're going to win in Central America, then why not learn a little bit more about them? It's no different now that you've seen a bit of tide turning in England, that, foreign managers have come over, and now there's a new wave of British coaches coming through that have learned, actually, there is another way to look at the world. And I believe it is a good thing to learn more about how the Central Americans, how their culture, how they play the game, because you've got to adapt and overcome when you play against them.
Tommy, I read a great interview with you on, I think, canpl.ca about you as a coach, and, it came across that you're a very modern thinking, progressive football coach. Is there a coach out there in the world that you look up to in particular as someone that you could base a lot of your teachings on?
Do you know what? I think I grew up in England in the era with Sir Alex Ferguson, and what I loved about it, I'm an Everton fan, and don't get me wrong, I feel that what Sir Alex did was more than just coach. He created a culture. He created a legacy of excellence at Old Trafford, and it's something that I tried to build in a mini format with Footyls, and then when I've moved on there, was something I've used a lot of the principles in building the cavalry. But then in terms of the modern day era, I love the way Jurgen Klopp speaks about the game with passion. I love the way Guardiola dissects the game and questions this, that and the other, and does unorthodox thinking to create these unique ways. I love Pochettino, his relationship with his players. And I think, there's elements of Jose Mourinho where, when he won it with FC Porto, he was prepared to play what needed to be done to win the game. And, and I guess elements of that came out on Saturday's game against Forge.
You didn't mention Marcus Silva there, Tommy.
Oh, jeez, no. He's every other game, isn't he?
Wow.
Yeah, you know what? He's got some great things, but, as an Everton fan, we're not organised without the ball. And teams will cut you open if you're not organised without the ball. So, you only spend, 2 or 3 minutes per player in possession. So, you've got to be great without the ball.
Well, there's a Howard Kendall somewhere in the world waiting to take that job once again.
Bring back the glory.
You know it. Andy Gray up front. Yeah. Listen, Tommy.
Graham Sharp, Andy Gray.
Go through them, eh?
Reed in midfield.
I'm a red, I'm afraid, so I remember those days with mixed emotions. Tommy.
You know, here's the thing, because I'm not one of those that can look at Liverpool and hate them. I just think, geez, they're so bloody good in what they're doing right now. You can only, now the football in me admires them. As an Everton fan, I despise the fact that they're so successful, but as a football man, I'm like, they play the game in an incredible way, and they're tough to beat, and there's just excellence about them right now that's to be admired.
And that's why they call it the friendly rivalry, I guess. Tommy, thank you so much, mate. I really enjoyed this. Good luck on the weekend. It's been some season for Cavalry. Obviously, spring champs, fall champs, hopefully full champs in your standpoint as of next weekend. So thanks so much for joining us.
I appreciate you having us on, guys.
Good luck, Tommy. Good luck.
Thanks, Tommy.
Thanks.
That's Tommy Wheeldon Jnr. Yeah, interesting stuff, isn't it? And there's a lot of, 6 now, I guess, of course, the one coach left. But younger coaches, but modern thinking coaches and progressive coaches, and be it Bobby Sminiotis, Rob Gale, you could go on. From a coaching standpoint, they were given the mandate, coach your team, sure, but also be available, sell your club in the community and nationally. And I think, to a man, they've done a really good job of that so far this season.
They have done well. I think they've done really well. They've all collectively, they get along really well. They know what they're trying to do. They're all together on how they build the league, Danny. And it really, in the first year, I think it's been quite successful.
Yeah, I think, as you said, they all knew it was going to be baby steps moving into this first year. And I think every single one of them, even going down to deep, darkest Halifax there with Stephen Hart, who's really, really done a great job with that Halifax team and the support they have down there, having a sports team to support. I know they have minor league hockey down there, but they have a fantastic little stadium down there, and it's great for the future of football in this country. Craig, you've been here a long, long time. I've been here 12 years now, and it's something that this country has needed, but not only for the media attention and for the country as a whole, but for the younger players and even for players that have grown up in this country and played in probably local leagues, to have a chance to play professionally for either a local club or travelling to play for a club in a different province. I think it's fantastic, and hopefully we can push on and maybe 1 or 2 teams. I don't want to see an influx of 5 or 6 teams straight away. I think the league are doing it in a correct way and saying, look, we're going to bring in 1 or 2 leagues. The travel is obviously still an issue, but we've gained a lot of support this year. We're bubbling with the fans that we have attending this game. Even the final on Saturday at Forge Hamilton was fantastic. A really, really good turnout. And we know that Calgary are going to get a great turnout there with Cavalry. And as I said, it's moving in the right direction.
Yep.
Absolutely, and you compare it to MLS and how they're growing and getting numbers. It took a long time. This isn't going to happen overnight, and I think we're seeing some good progress this season. Speaking of MLS, I want to get to this quickly. Obviously, they've looked upon buying big-name players from overseas to help grow the league. For example, Zlatan Ibrahimovic, right? Now, love or hate Zlatan, he's fun to watch, and he may have played his last game recently. LA Galaxy lost to LAFC 5-3. As he's walking off the field, he's being given it by the, I guess, the LAFC faithful. And we kind of discussed this a bit earlier with Xhaka, but he grabs his crutch to say, leave me alone. But that didn't offend me. I don't care about that, whatever. It's Ibra being Ibra. But his comments afterwards, when asked about, is he staying or is he going, he says, we'll see what happens. If I stay, then MLS is good because the whole world will watch it. If I don't stay, nobody will remember what MLS is. I'm getting kind of tired of Ibra. I know it's a shtick, but shut up. Shut up. You don't transcend shit, Ibra. You're a great player. You've been fun to watch. You're theatered by itself, but sometimes you go too far, and it's getting a little bit tiresome, isn't it?
It's his thing. It's his stick. There's no question about it. And whether you, like you said, whether you like him or not, and from his footballing ability, still, he has a lot to offer.
He can still play, obviously.
Yeah. And he's got that little bit extra. I mean, he took out that ad when he arrived in LA. LA, you're welcome.
The Lion has arrived.
Yeah.
But as you said, it's his persona, and he plays up to it very, very well. Wherever he's played in the world, he's always battling against the media and opponents' fans, even his home fans, even his own manager at times. Even at Barcelona, he fell out with Pep Guardiola, and I just think that's what he plays with. He thrives on that kind of pressure that he puts himself under. He's getting a little bit older.
I mean, any manager that has him, they got, first of all, a terrific player, but second of all, you got to deal with Ibra.
Yeah. And there was certain stuff that he came out with this year at LA where he hammered his own players and saying that they're basically donkeys and not good enough. And there's certain stuff where a head coach has to be strong enough to manage that, and I just don't think within this league we have head coaches that are big enough to manage a superstar like Ibra, because...
But Pep couldn't either.
No, exactly.
He couldn't handle him.
And it's nothing to do with the head coaches, don't get me wrong here, because we have some fantastic head coaches within the league. I just think this persona and this aura that surrounds Ibra and his contingent is basically saying, look, we do things this way, and that's how it's going to be. Otherwise, we're not going to stay here, or we're not going to be here. We're not going to promote the league as much as Ibra thinks he does. He thinks he's the main man in the league, and he scored plenty of goals this year. But he wasn't the main man because his team are not in the playoffs. They're not in the Final Four, like LAFC and Carlos Vela, who's done very, very well for LAFC this year, top scorer. They're guys that are pushing the league forwards. They're making leaps and bounds.
Yeah, as if he always wanted to be that player that was bigger than the sport, and there aren't many of them. He wasn't one of them. He tried through his shtick. Great player, of course, but if you look at the players that have, in many ways, transcended their sport, I'd say Ronaldo, like Cristiano's up there, more than Messi, just because of his off-the-field image, right? He's worked in it more than Messi has. Beckham as well. No one ever. Some people said Beckham was the best player in the world. He never was. But his persona, his image off the field was
brand,
so big, his brand, that even if you weren't a football fan, you knew who David Beckham was. So
I
in
think
many
if you
ways,
go back to the Ronaldo and Messi argument, both fantastic players that we have had the pleasure in seeing live or on TV, which a lot of people have not been able to witness prior to Messi and Ronaldo arriving, because we speak about Pelé and Maradona from back in the days. But the difference between Ronaldo and Messi is that Ronaldo has actually won something at international level as well. And that's the only stumbling block where people talk about Messi not being world class, which I still think is stupid. He's world class. But he hasn't won or hasn't helped his international team.
What happens, just say, for instance, Messi comes from Haiti. He's never going to win the World Cup. He's never going to qualify for the World Cup.
Or George Best.
Or George, there you go. There's a good example, Northern Ireland. So, depending on where they come from, it's hard. As it happens, he comes from Argentina, right?
You're right. And his Argentine teams have been very good teams, but you're right, haven't won the big prize.
Yeah.
Maybe they should have done, but I don't think it's Messi's fault.
No, exactly.
When you see him World Cups, he's been vilified. He's been great at World Cups, but he can't do it all himself.
No.
And
no. See, and when he comes to, Maradona did it, 86. You could.
Although Ronaldo done it all himself.
For
Portugal.
Well, did he though? Look at the scorelines. It was defense, wasn't it?
Yeah. Well, he was on the he was on the bench for the coaching for the final.
That's right. Yeah.
So he did do it himself.
I don't know if there's a more boring argument in the world. Who's better, Messi or Ronaldo? I think you're right, Deitch. Just enjoy them.
Yeah.
Right. I'm a Messi guy.
Amazing.
You might be a Ronaldo guy. It's okay. These are the best of the generation. They would have dominated in any generation. Just as I'm sure Pelé, probably with the training nowadays and the diets nowadays, would have dominated today. We can never know that, but probably going to happen, right? Mm-hmm. And Pelé, to me, by the way, transcended the sport, because as a kid, I knew who Pelé was. I didn't know anything about football when I was 4 years old, but I knew who Pelé was. So times change, I suppose. But
Messi's now scored in how many consecutive Champions League years or something? It's like 17 or something.
Is that what it is? Yeah.
18?
It's crazy.
It's
crazy, yeah. But you know what? MLS will miss Ibra if he leaves. Mm-hmm. Will miss Ibra to a certain point, but yeah, his shtick is getting a bit tiresome, and some people have been saying that for a number of years now. Still, his biography is one of the best biographies to read, because it really is. It's great. Before we go, big question. I've got one here for you, all right? This weekend, Rugby World Cup. I'm a big rugby fan. England smashed the All Blacks against the Thornburg. One of the greatest, if not the greatest, rugby performance by England ever. It was incredible. And the All Blacks, big favourites to win the World Cup, out of here, gone, goodbye. But a lot of controversy about the haka before the match. Now, the haka's amazing. I think most people really enjoy watching it, but England really stood up to it. People are saying they disrespected the haka. They did this kind of V formation, and they encroached over the line a little bit. You've got to be 10 metres from the haka, because, was it 97?
Yeah.
England played the All Blacks, and I think Richard Cockerell was going face-to-face with Norm Hewitt. It's one of the greatest sporting sites you'll ever see. Google it. But it kind of kicked off, and since then they've said you must be 10 metres back. But England really kind of got in the faces of the All Blacks, and people are saying it's wrong. You shouldn't be able to do that. You should respect the haka. I think that's bullshit.
Yeah.
Don't you? I mean,
No,
okay,
I do.
respect the culture. I get that, where it comes from, but why should you be allowed to stand there and be intimidated by one team before kickoff?
Well, there's lots of comments about the haka and England's formation, etc. And I think the haka is a great rugby tradition. I really do. It's a great spectacle as well for the sport. Everyone knows about.
Yeah.
So New Zealand have the right to do it, but they have no right to dictate how teams line up or crowd react to it. In my opinion, it's a challenge that they're kind of dictating to the other team. So other teams have the right to react and face that challenge. And I loved, there was one picture, I think, of Farrell, was it Farrelly, that was kind of looking...
Owen Farrell was kind of smirking a little bit, winking.
Smirking, but they were in the V formation. And what's wrong with that? Like, there's nothing wrong with it. I think it added to the spice of the game.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you're going to stand there and take that. I mean, absolutely take that. It's something. It's a very, very intimidating, the haka from New Zealand. Not the fact to take away the fact that they're one of the best teams in the world.
I'm not sure I understand.
It's fantastic. So,
no kidding.
Siri doesn't.
No kidding, Siri.
Siri doesn't agree with you.
What the fuck are you talking about? Really?
But let's not get away from the fact it's not just that New Zealand do the haka, is it? I think
Samoa, Fiji
actually do it as well. So the teams lining up against them have, as I said, every right to react in a way, as long as it's not ungentlemanly, which at the end of the game, you saw England line up, New Zealand line up in kind of a victory tunnel to applaud them, and then England reversed it and applauded New Zealand back off the field. So there's a huge amount of respect in rugby towards the other player, to the opponent. Yeah. And I think football could learn a lot off of that. I really do, you know. But
I've always said that, you know, I played rugby my whole life up until I was 31.
I can tell by your cauliflower ears.
Yeah. yeah. If you look into that brain a little bit deeper, you'll see some more damage, I think. Smashed.
Onion head.
Wow,
His mother's a rutabaga.
your face is so deformed. Is that from rugby, Shams? No, it's just the way I am. Yeah. But, you know, growing up, you know, you'd always play rugby 80 minutes, you beat the crap out of each other, and then you clap each other off the field, and then have a beer afterwards. And noticed in football that just wasn't the same.
Well, we saw that with the Canadian after the South Africa game. He got sent off, went into the dressing room, it went viral, you know, going in and saying, sorry, I feel really bad about the red card. Good luck for the rest of the tournament. You don't see that in any other sport. And even the New Zealand coach after, I thought he was incredibly classy about the match, saying that England were better than us on the day.
Yeah.
And as simple as that.
Actually, that's an experience that I gained when I came to North America, and I couldn't really get over it when I first came here. So we were on either away trips where we were playing, say, in Columbus or Chicago, wherever it was. And after the game, we'd go back to the hotel, get changed, and we'd go out for a meal because we had per diem back in those days. And then we'd go to a bar or something after because we were flying the next day. And the players that we just played against, whether it be from Columbus or Chicago, were in the same bar and we were having a drink or socializing with him. And I was like, what the fuck's going on here? That fella kicked 2 lumps out of me the whole game, or I've given him a nice juicy elbow, and now we're having beers together. And I just couldn't get over it. But the explanation from our players was, you have to remember, a lot of these guys that play in the league, they went to either university together, they've grown up together in that sense, that it's still a social thing for them. And that was something I had to kind of come to terms with early on in my MLS
Because
career.
you're a Neanderthal.
I just, like, when I'm going out on the field and I'm like, we're going to war. This is a battle we're going for.
Right,
like,
for the 90 minutes. But why can't you forget that after the match?
In England, that's not possible.
In football, but not in rugby.
You got anger management.
Yeah, I did have anger management. But,
maybe try to eat someone once.
Yeah, exactly.
It goes back to last week's conversation. We talked about, you know, the hugging before a match and shaking hands. I don't agree with that. I agree. On the field of play, don't do that stuff. But afterwards, you should be able to just kind of take a breath and say, that was fun, well played, you played hard. Shake my hand, have a pint. You know, my last game playing soccer, I was a dreadful footballer. I'm talking like Division 3 men's indoor soccer. I got sent off.
Division 3.
Yeah, it was awful.
So you had anger management as well, Sean?
Yeah, but I got sent off for a little bit of a skirmish, and then me and this other guy got sent off, and we both sitting in the stands about 10 rows away, eyeing each other, and then went, fuck it. Went over there, shook his hand, had a great chat, had some beers. Another Englishman, turns out. It was great. It was fine. But for those few minutes on the field, we hated each other. But you can forget it, I think, and you should forget it. Kids out there. All those kids out there. This is guy coaching our children today, by the way. Danny DICHIO, you know, Toronto FC Academy, the future of the game in this country. You don't want to shake hands.
Win at all costs.
No. Yeah. You do whatever you got to do. You got to bite, you got to bite. Do what you got to do. But yeah. Anyway, England, South Africa, next weekend.
Yeah.
4 a.m. or something. Oh God, these World Cups, you know, in strange lands, aren't good for viewership, are they? They're tough to watch.
Yeah.
Christ, get used to it. Qatar, 2022.
Oh, that's right.
Christ, the Premier League is shutting down like 7 days before the tournament kicks off or something.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Good preparation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A Winter World Cup nightmare.
Yeah, I'd say. All right, guys, we're out of time. We want to thank Tommy Wheeldon Jnr.
Awesome.
Calgary Cavalry. Good luck to them. And Hamilton Forge up 1-0 in the CPR final. The second leg goes this Saturday. Catch that on One Soccer, of course. It should be another fantastic match. More drama, more theatrics. And we'll crown our first champion in the Canadian Premier League. I want to thank, as always, Eggplant Picture and Sound. Also, Luca DICHIO. Luca DICHIO of Side Door Magazine, sidedoormag.com. He shares the same name as Danny DICHIO because he's his son. Luca's in charge of our look. our logo. He's doing great work with that, so we thank you. So please check out sidedoormag.com. Log on, check out Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, subscribe, and sign up for notifications. We're getting there, fellas and ladies. We're getting there slowly but surely. We thank you for joining us, and we'll be back same time, same place next week. Cheers for listening and watching.